Over the weekend, the G20 summit met in Rome, where the United States pledged to help by donating 1 billion COVID vaccines to the rest of the world. Biden also announced to resume discussions of the nuclear accord with Iran, the first talks since 2015. The group of G20 leaders also agreed to end public financing for coal-fired generation abroad. We must accelerate the phasing out of coal and invest in more renewable energy, said Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, going into the final working session. The Supreme Court will hear arguments Monday in a challenge against a new Texas law banning nearly all abortions in the state. The law, known as Senate Bill 8, prohibits most abortions in the state and lets private citizens file lawsuits against anyone performing or aiding in any abortion that occurs after fetal cardiac activity that can be detected 6 weeks into pregnancy. 3 candidates for the City Council of Northampton declined to participate in forums co-sponsored by Northampton Abolition this week, citing the fact that the group has endorsed their opponents. Ward 1 candidate Stanley Moulton, Ward 3 incumbent James Nash, and at-large candidate Marissa Elkins said their decision not to participate in a series of forums on Wednesday and Thursday nights were based on Non's endorsement of Lemmy Coffin in Ward 1, David Chris in Ward 3, and Jamila Gore for one of 2 at-large seats. This is Scout Greenwood, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Hamped Up. Y'all ready for this?
This week, we looked into Northampton Community Rowing, a nonprofit organization that brings together members of our community to participate in a sport dating back to the early 19th century. NCR provides a space for high schoolers around the area to connect on the water, as well as offering an adult rowing program regardless of age, race, or ability. We spoke to NHS students about their experience with Northampton Community Rowing and the opportunities it offers.
How has Crew connected you with your community?
Crew has let me meet a lot of people from other towns that I wouldn't have met otherwise through the school.
We have an adult team, which means that I get to connect with a whole bunch of more experienced rowers who are really useful and give us a lot of useful knowledge on rowing.
How has Crew connected you to members of your community?
I've met a lot of great friends and mentors that have really improved my rowing.
Thank you.
Northampton Community Rowing is a nonprofit organization. Are those ideals in line with your experience with the program?
I would say they definitely are. We're really serving a lot of different parts of the community.
Yeah, just like lets people get in boats and row, and I think we really try to have an environment where we let people participate.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, all of our money goes to either repairing our boats, getting new boats, or yeah, pretty much just anything we can to keep the boathouse running.
Do opportunities for connection differ between a community rowing program and a high school team?
I would say they definitely do. We're able to meet kind of outside of school boundaries in a place that's accessible for other areas to come to as well.
Also, since rowing is such an expensive sport, we're able to get funding through the nonprofit that we probably wouldn't be able to have.
I'd say with the community program, we probably get more opportunities to connect with experts in the sport, but we definitely have less of an advantage when it comes to funding because we're all self-funded. So,
what are your thoughts on being freezing?
Yeah. This year, Northampton High School started using reusable plastic plates in an attempt to be more environmentally conscious. 2 weeks ago, over 60 of the cafeteria's plates were found by one of the custodians buried in the woods behind the school. The cafeteria had already noticed their supplies were dropping rapidly, but they were disappointed by the discovery of the buried plates. Both custodians and cafeteria staff had to work extra hard to dig up the plates and wash them off. We spoke to some of the students and staff to learn more about this incident and how to prevent it from happening again.
My opinion on the plates being added, I think it's fine. I don't really have a strong opinion on it one way or another. But I think it's a good addition rather than disposable plates.
I think it's very cool that the plates were added to the school because it relies on a source instead of disposable trays to dirty the environment. It's a reusable source instead of throwing stuff in the dump and destroying the environment.
Yes, I do think the school should be more green. I think everything in general should be working towards that, and including our school.
The plates being buried, it's school property, so if a student is the one burying them, that's really not okay because it's not their property to bury. It's like taking something away from someone just to hide it somewhere and not use it properly. I feel just put out an announcement that someone did try to bury them and it is school property and it's theirs and it's their money.
I was honestly kind of disappointed that no one had mentioned that they were out there, because it had to have been a while because there were so many plates.
We come in here every day, try to do a good job for you, and to have somebody do that and make our job initially harder, and that's just very disrespectful. It got really hard because we were running out of plates a lot sooner than usual, so we would always have to go back washing dishes, being short-handed on the line or on the register. It made us short-handed a lot of times.
We have many different places for bins. There's one out in the hallway, there's one by the door, there was one outside the door and our main window. So not only would somebody have to be running to hit all of those spots to make sure that there's dishes there to wash, so it really cut off our time being able to serve food.
So my initial reaction was that I was shocked, and I actually felt kind of sad and disappointed for both the other students and the food service staff. How to prevent this? I'm completely unsure on that. I feel like we put adequate bins out in all sorts of areas of the cafeteria, outside, near the entrances, near the dish room. I'm just hoping maybe through advocacy and letting everyone know would be the best prevention. I shared with Ms. Valancourt, and so I believe from there she has shared with other student groups, so kind of just getting the word out of how important it is to bring the plates back and so that we can wash them to reuse them for the next meals.
The cafeteria staff and head of food services have been working hard to make the cafeteria more environmentally conscious, so please make sure to follow their requests and return the plates when you're done eating. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week.
Griffin, can you get that assignment in for me? Griffin. Griffin! Guards!
Griffin! Do the assignment! Do it!
Oh, my computer's not working. Oh, guards! Oh, that's better. Yes! Oh man, I'm so hungry. Where's the moon?
This week on Taking It to the Streets, we take a look at the recent withdrawal from Afghanistan from an international perspective. In 2001, the British government joined forces with the U.S. in the War on Terror, sending thousands of troops to Afghanistan and Iraq. Since then, the English Parliament has been divided in its willingness to stay committed to these affairs. So how do you think the Biden administration could have done this differently?
I'm not really sure how they could have done it differently. I think the fact that we did it was the right thing. I do feel very strongly about that. I think some of the intelligence and understanding about what was likely to happen with the collapse of the Afghan government and the military probably should have been taken into more account, because my understanding now is that a lot of folks anticipated that was what was going to happen.
So will this hurt our relations with other countries?
I think that it will, just because it seems like it was quite poorly done and Americans didn't really receive it that well, and the international community didn't seem to receive it that well, and it was not covered positively in the press at all. So I think it will.
We spoke to Tom Tugendhat to further understand foreign perceptions of the war in Afghanistan. Tugendhat, a member of the British Parliament and chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, has been very vocal about the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
So I think I've made my position on Afghanistan pretty clear, which I think this is a pretty awful letdown of not just 35 million Afghans, but also many hundreds of thousands of US, UK, Australian, and many other servicemen and women who fought alongside us side by side. And since I gave a speech in the Commons, I've had emails from guys I served with in France, in Germany, in Sweden, in the United States, in Canada. I can keep going, by the way, because this is an issue that has affected us all so much. Well, a lot of people who have a connection to the military, which is a large number of people in the UK, have felt pretty let down, pretty hurt by what we've seen. And a lot of people who have no connection are still looking at the starvation that we're seeing in Kabul. They're seeing the abandonment of interpreters and aid workers who worked alongside us and taking that pretty badly. And so I and many others are pressing our own government to do more evacuations to help those who stood by us in our hour of need. You know, if we want to have friends in the future, we've got to show our friends that we stand by them. And that means doing the right thing now.
Mr. Tugendhat also had one more thing he'd like to say to us.
Don't forget, you can change the world. This is your democracy, this is your nation, and your voices matter. So even if you're too young to vote, you are not too young to speak. So do make sure you use your voices.
Our thanks to Mr. Tugendhat for taking time out of his busy schedule to talk to the Transcript. The withdrawal from Afghanistan ended on August 30th, when the Defense Department announced that the last plane took off from the Kabul International Airport and no more American boots were on the ground. However, some officials like Zalimani Khalilzad, who is the former lead negotiator of America's withdrawal from Afghanistan, said that there could still be thousands of Americans stuck in the country. Thanks for watching.
To Cheap Thrills. This week we explored local bookstores with avid book reviewer Kendall Reynolds to get some recommendations, find some of her favorite books, authors, and places to shop.
I think my favorite part of Ravensview's books is how accessible it is to everyone. I think the best part of reading is being able to lose yourself, and I think there should be no price limit on that. It's my favorite author of all time. There is a lot of weird stuff she writes about. She's pretty crazy. She's really out of the box, but I think one of my favorite poems by her, she talks about how she went to an all-girls Catholic school. And each day they sat down, the students, and they said, raise your hand if you were able to hear from God, or God was able to answer. And she never was able to, so she got kicked out of school. From the outside you'd think, oh, Emily Dickinson, she's religious, she sees God, she believes in God. Something she really, it speaks to her, but she's actually making fun of it. She's actually connecting her beliefs to nature and birds and song and not God. So I would highly recommend Emily Dickinson. So Broadside Books is my favorite bookstore in the whole world, and I don't just like it because it's the local small bookstore, but they do this thing called staff pick, and so you'll see this little sticker that says staff pick, and each staff member has a select few books that they love, and if you ask anyone here, they'll bring you to their little section of staff picks and they'll tell you about the book, why they like it, and it's just a very intimate experience, and they'll just ask you about some books you've read, some that you've been interested in, or topics that you like, and they'll just bring you on throughout the entire store and tell you all the books you'll love or why they like this book. And so if you want to come into a bookstore and really feel welcome, this is definitely the bookstore to go to. This is called My Dark Vanessa, and it is about this young 15-year-old girl ranging to a 35-year-old woman and her ongoing relationship with her teacher. And in the beginning, it's very dark and very twisted and kind of scary, but it's a journey of her growth and realization, and I think a lot of people can learn from this book. Not about necessarily what it's about, but the thought. It's very thought-provoking, and it's a very, very good book.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm John. Welcome to The Person Show. Truck owners tend to have a strong relationship with their vehicles, so much so it may even bring concern to some. This week we sit down with Hunter Riley and McCalgill Johnson, two dedicated truck owners and enthusiasts. So tell me about yourselves.
Well, I'm originally from a banana farm in Mississippi. I was born in the swamps, and I was orphaned almost immediately and raised by the crocodiles. And you know, that's, some people say they live their life like a rolling stone. I kind of live my life like a crocodile, you know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something you'd talk about when, like, between friends, like, you'd talk about, like, who you are and, like, what kind of stuff you do.
I don't like to open up too much, you know?
So why do truck owners like yourself have such a strong relationship with their vehicles?
Yeah, it's...
Fine! Oh! Jesus!
Well, can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Are we not going to address that?
I have short-term memory loss.
A plane just flew right...
Well, after my fourth wife left me, she took everything from me. I feel attached to my truck because it's the only place where I can sit, but it's also the only thing I can remember her by.
Yeah, and I just like my Prius because of the gas mileage.
Yeah.
So what do you two enjoy most about driving your vehicles?
You know, I would love to be able to say that when I turn on my engine, it roars like a kitten, but it doesn't really roar. It kind of sputters and dies like my morale on weekdays.
One thing I really don't love is spending money on gas, which hurts our precious planet.
Yeah.
And that's why I just love my Prius.
What
also,
about-
don't use plastic water bottles.
So you both keep repeating the word love a good amount. So what does that word love mean to you?
I guess I like to think of myself as sort of a lover boy. I actually got certified recently. What isn't love? If you know what I mean. And to me, love is 33 miles of power in my Prius Prime.
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this guy, actually, because
to me it's just hate.
So thank you two for coming out. Do you both have any last words?
God bless your soul.
Little overused. I just wanted to plug my new diet. It's the Charlie Reed corn diet. It's basically just corn, yeah, it's not good for you, but and it doesn't taste good. It doesn't make you feel good, but it is what I'm working on at the minute. And we just got a shipment of corn coming in. So yeah, so I've got this guy on it for a while. And
I went to my doctor recently, and he said I was actually eating just too much fiber, and that's why you know, my bottom was really bloody all the time.
Oh, hi, Mom. What, Mom? You crashed my car? You crashed my Prius Prime? Okay. I can't believe you did this to my Prius Prime. My 21 Prius Prime, it gets 30 miles.
He peeled out.
Back in like 2014, grabbed an iPad, filmed me and my brother making hilarious videos. So that's when I started. And that was like back in 2014, so going on like 7-8 years now.
One could say you're up to the feet of Quentin Tarantino.
I hope not. Quentin Tarantino is a hack, and everybody should know it.